everybody. Thanks for coming out again. My name is Mr. Paul, and I'm an artist. Been an artist for a long, long time. Been creative for a long, long time, and I teach art to young people, just like yourselves. I work in schools, mostly in elementary schools right now. I've taught all different ages, but I really, really like the elementary school kids that I work with. Uh, we have a lot of fun a lot of times. Today, what we're going to do, we're going to be playing in watercolor. I know that many of you have already tried this. You've worked in watercolor before, and I find it a lot of fun. But I must say that out of all the different kinds of paint, watercolor is really, really, it can be real hard, especially if you're trying to do really uh, detailed stuff. It can be really kind of hard. So I was kind of wondering what I might do with you guys um, today that is not so hard, but it's kind of like a uh, preliminary class of watercolor. I'm going to teach you some basic things about how to handle watercolor. Um, and then we're going to do a really kind of simple thing just so you can get in there, mix those paints, and play with the brush and the medium. The medium is the materials that we use. So the medium today is watercolor. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of draw and paint here a little bit, and then you can go right along with me. What you're going to be needing to use is you need white paper. Now I've got watercolor paper. It's a thicker paper, but if you don't have watercolor paper, that's okay. You can still use regular paper, regular white paper. If it's thin, it's going to kind of get wobbly and bumpy and stuff. But I have all kinds of materials in my studio, so I have some watercolor paper. I've got a large thing of, this is my palette. A palette is the object that you put all of your paints in. I got this is really kind of a neat one, and I got it for sale at like Michael's or something about 2 or 3 years ago. I got it real cheap, which was really cool. Watercolor is what, as you might know, is it's a water-based paint, like tempera. Um, there's acrylic paint, like that comes out of those tubes and stuff. They are they're water-based too, but when they dry, they really dry. You know, if you get watercolor paint on your clothes, it'll wash off. Tempera, it'll wash off. Acrylic paint, if you let it dry, it's there for good. And then of course there's oil paint, and oil paint is based in oil. It's got oil in it, and boy, if you get that on your clothes, it'll never come out. So you got to be real careful. But watercolor is very forgiving in that way. I think that what you need to do, if you haven't really done a lot of watercolor before, is you've just got to get in there and play in it. You have to be able to understand that the more water you keep in your brush when you go down to get your paint, it's going to be a lighter color. If you use a lot of water and a little paint, it'll be a lighter color. If you use less water and you go into your paint, you're going to get a deeper, darker color. And that's something to really kind of understand. Another thing, and because I work with kids who have different backgrounds, in painting and stuff like that. Some kids have a problem with using too much water, right? I always say that when you go from one color to the next, you put your paintbrush in your water and really, really clean it out, right? Squeeze the water out of it. Because if you don't squeeze the water out of it and you go for something else, you're going to put it on there and it's good. There's going to be so much water that it's going to ruin your picture, right? And so you have to be real careful. That's one of the main things about working in watercolor. I think working in watercolor is kind of difficult sometimes. But we're going to just play in it today. So what I'm doing is I'm making a face. Everybody knows how to kind of make a face. It doesn't make a difference how you do it, just so long as you put the two eyes, the nose, a mouth, some ears, some hair, right? You can make it a girl or you can make it a boy. But I think that there's a way to figure out the best way to do paint, watercolor paint. But I tell you what, you just got to get in there and do it. I could sit here and talk to you about you do it this way and you do it that way. You have to be able to experience the watercolor, what it can do and what it can't do. I have a dear, dear friend who is an incredible colorist. He's from Oklahoma, and his name is Bert Seaborn. He's a nationally known artist, right? And he does beautiful, beautiful watercolors. And talk about watercolors that, you look at him and you're going, how did he do that? I can't believe that. He's great. I love his watercolors. They're very, very, he's an American Indian artist, so most of the things that he does has something to do with the American West, the Indians of America, that kind of a thing. And so to me, he is a very, very brave man because he has gone in there and he has really mastered watercolor. Okay, let me see what I'm going to do now. I think I'm going to go to another color. Now, because I've got a lot of colors, you can choose the colors that you want. That is fairly easy to do. You like certain colors, right? So if you like pink or blue or green or yellow, whatever, you use the colors that you want. I have gotten 2 different sizes of brushes. And for this piece of paper, I'm just going to go with this brush. If you've got a smaller piece of paper, then I would suggest that you go with a smaller brush, right? And what I'm doing right now is I'm just drawing with paint as opposed to a marker or a pencil or what have you. I'm just drawing, right? So I would like for you, if you would, if you're making this face with me, use all the colors, right? Don't just go with, oh, my skin's dark brown or my skin's real light. Go with some fun colors. This is going to be a fun, hopefully it's going to be a fun project to do. I sometimes tell my students that being an artist, you have to be brave. I know we think of bravery as, like what's going on with our doctors and our nurses and our police and our firemen, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's bravery too, absolutely. But on a little way, to be an artist, you have to be brave enough to fail, to make mistakes. And watercolor is one of those things that you really have to work at to get to a point where you can minimize mistakes, meaning you don't make a lot of mistakes. And I tell you what, the only way that you can really do that is just to get in there and sling some paint. That's actually the most fun, I think. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use all different kinds of colors in this one thing. I am going to make my face into a sun. You know, like a sun. Sometimes you see these outside on fences at people's houses and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm making a sun, right? But I'm going to put a face on it. Okay. Now I'm going to go with another color. Try all different colors. Again, if you want a really, really dark color, you put a little water here and you just dig into the paint. What that does is the water releases the pigment. It's like in a cake right now. It's hard, right? But when you put your paintbrush in and really, really work that in, you get a real dark color. Okay. There's another painter that's is American painter. She's mostly known for her acrylic paintings, but she did watercolor too, and I really love them. Her name is Georgia O'Keeffe. She's a very, 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 very famous uh, American painter, and she did these really, really what I call loose watercolor. What I'm doing is kind of tight. You know, it's kind of like there's not really much flowing involved or anything. It's just real tight, like I'm going to paint this lower lip pink. And she did these really what I call real loose paintings. And they're just beautiful. And she allowed her paint to kind of blend in. She used kind of like what she did, it's called a wash. She washed her whole paper in water, and then she would streak colors in it, and the colors would like bleed out. It was really kind of cool. I love her work. So, how's your sun coming? Are you doing this along with me? I hope you are. I hope you are. And what I'm going to continue to do is I'm going to continue to use odd colors all the way through. Because we're just playing today, right? Just giving you just a chance to get in there and make some mistakes if it happens, and just get in there and experiment with this paint, because as I said before, controlling water, I mean, think about it. If you're controlling water's pretty hard to control, right? It doesn't stay put, it runs. So again, don't worry about making mistakes and that kind of stuff. Actually, mine's going to end up being kind of like a rainbow sun. There is a technique, there's a wet brush and a dry brush. A dry brush is when you don't use a lot of water, right? See how scratchy that is? Like that. Let me see if I can lift that up. See how scratchy that is? There's not a lot of paint on the paintbrush, right? And then there is the wet brush technique, and that's when you have a lot of water and it just flows on, right? There's a difference, a dry brush and a wet brush. And you can, I mean, and there are reasons to use both of those, right? There we go. I'm kind of liking mine. How is yours doing? Is yours doing okay? Like I said before, use all kinds of colors. The purpose of this class today is I want you to get in there, learn how to use that paintbrush to do what you need it to do, right? I think that you can read books about watercolor, you can do art classes about watercolor, but the bottom line on all this is that you are going to have to get your paintbrushes out, sit by yourself for a little bit, right? And just play in the paint. That's how I learned to work in watercolor. Um, I must say that I'm not a great watercolorist. I'll be the first person to say that to you. Um, I prefer working with acrylic paint. And I tell you what, most people I know, most of the painters I know, they paint in all different kinds of paint. Oil paint, acrylic paint, tempera paint. There used to be a long, long time ago. Not so much anymore. There are some artists that still use it. It's called tempera. And what they would do, this was this was a long time ago before you could go to Michael's or Home Depot to get your art supplies. They would have to make their own paint. And so they would take their pigment, this tempera pigment, and they would put an egg in it, right? An egg, and stir it up. And it just made a beautiful liquid to paint with. Uh, there's all kinds of different kind of paints and I encourage you to try all of them. You know, try all of them. The thing about being a young artist and you're starting out and you know you just never know. It's like I started out as a painter and I painted and all this kind of stuff, but I kept kind of going back to clay, right? I tried clay and I went, this is it. I love this. I'm going to continue to work in clay. And so I have. I love working in clay. But when I first started in clay, I thought, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I can continue this. I don't know if I'll ever get good enough to be able to do something like that or something even better than that, right? It was just a matter of if you have the bug, the creative bug, right? And you are trying to find something that you really, really love to do. I mean, some people love watercolor, some people don't, right? It's like It's a choice that you make. There's no wrong paint to paint in, right? It's the one that you like working in the best. Because as I've said before, if you like making art, then you will do art all the time. And when you do art all the time, you will naturally get better and better. It's like learning a sport or, you know, acting or all the other art. Dancing. Dancing is a perfect example. Ballet dancers, you start out and you feel like you've got two left feet, and the more you do, a lot of girls become ballerinas. Some boys get into dance. So, but you got to try. And what I mean by try is not just, okay, I'm going to do this. Bam, 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 I'm done. But to actually stop and try to do your very best. You try to do your very best every time that you make something creative, an art piece. That's how you grow as an artist. There we go. I'm going to do something really weird. I'm going to give him green eyes. How's that? I kind of like it. Now, one thing that I would do, and you don't have to do this, but I think it'd be better if I outline all of it in blue. Got the outline of that all in blue. There we go. So I tell you what, this is the first kind of venture in watercolor for these videos, but I think I'm going to put together another one. The next time what we'll do is we'll try to maybe create a scene, create a place, a beautiful, fanciful place. Um, but that, again, let's work on, and even when you're not here with me or someone else, get some paper out, get your watercolor. Practice putting that water in the paint, stirring it up, and being able to do what you want to do with this paintbrush. Again, this is a tool, just like a hammer or a screwdriver or a pair of scissors. This is a tool. The more you use it, the more control you're going to have. And if you're like me, who wants to get better, it's all about teaching your hand to draw what's up here, right? To me, that's the important issue. Again, keep if you want a palette like that, keep checking it at excuse me, Michael's. I think this is where I got it. They have great sales all the time. I know this may sound like a commercial for Michael's, but it really isn't. They have great sales. I think I paid $6 for this, and it's beautiful, beautiful paint. So listen, I'm going to let you go. It's time for me to get out of here. I hope everybody enjoyed this. Again, continue, even when you're not doing art classes online, get that paint out and get that paper out and work. And do something that you want. If you're into dinosaurs, or if you're into ninjas, or what have you, cats, whatever you want to create. You can do it in pencil, and then you can do it in watercolor too. So keep it up. I love working with you guys. I hope you come back. Next week we're going to be working three-dimensional again. We're going to be doing another three-dimensional art project. So anyway, stay safe. Stay close to family and close friends. Um, Stay healthy. And I will see you again, I'm sure. Take it easy. Bye. Bye.